A cloak for the dreamer. Once there was a tailor who had 3 fine sons. The tailor loved his sons and appreciated their helpfulness. Ivan, the oldest son, picked up all the pins from the floor of his father's shop and gathered together all of the little pieces of loose thread. Whenever he could, Ivan watched his father measure, cut, and sew. He wanted to be a tailor himself one day and work alongside his father. Alex, the middle son, bought his father bolts of fabric to cut and then carefully put them away. Whenever he could, Alex practiced sewing together the small leftover pieces of fabric. He, too, wanted to be a tailor and work alongside his father. Mischa, the youngest son, carried the finished jackets and cloaks and dresses to his father's customers all over town. Whenever he could, he stopped at the bookseller's shop around the corner. There he pored over the maps of the world and pictured for faraway places. Unlike his brothers, Mischa did not want to be a tailor and work alongside his father. He dreamed instead of traveling far and wide and making his own way into the world. One morning, the tailor gathered his 3 sons before him. "Now is the time," he said, "for each of you to show that you can do the work of a tailor. Our good customer, the Archduke, leaves on an important journey in just 3 days. For this journey, he has ordered 3 new cloaks for himself and 3 dresses for his wife. I can sew the dresses, but to get the job done on time, each of you must make 1 cloak." The sons were glad to help their father and listened carefully to his instructions. "First of all," explained the tailor, "the Archduke wants his cloaks to be colorful. Every bolt of fabric we have just 1 color, so each of you will have to cut pieces from many bolts and sew them in a single colorful cloth of your own design. Of course, the cloak you fashion from your cloth will also have to protect the Archduke from the wind and the rain. Work by yourselves so that all 3 cloaks will be different." The sons got busy right away. Ivan first studied the bolts of fabric. He had seen his father use them all at one time or another, so he cut rectangle from each one. Then, using the pattern of bricks on the floor, Ivan carefully sewed the rectangles together. From this beautiful cloth of many colors, he fashioned a cloak for the Archduke. Ivan was ready on the morning of the 3rd day to present the cloak to his father. Meanwhile, Alex had thought of the colors of the Archduke's carriage and the coat of arms that was painted on its side. He pulled down the bolts of red, yellow, and purple fabric and cut many squares from each bolt. He nimbly stitched the squares together to make one beautiful cloth of the Archduke's colors, then fashioned the cloth into a sturdy cloak. Because of all his sewing practice, Alex worked quickly enough to have his cloak ready on the morning of the 2nd day. With a day to spare, Alex had time to worry. "Perhaps my cloak isn't interesting enough," he thought. "Perhaps the Archduke would want something more." He thought again of the Archduke's coat of arms and the patterns in its background. Then he went back to work. Alex cut more red, yellow, and purple squares, but this time he snipped them in half of the diagonal. He sewed those triangles together to match the pattern on the Archduke's coat of arms, and fashioned his new cloth into another cloak. Alex sewed even faster than he had the first time, and the 2nd cloak was ready by the morning of the 3rd day. All the while, Mischa was working too. He thought of going out into the world as he cut circles from the bolts of fabric. He picked up his colors from the maps he loved: blue for the deep oceans and winding rivers, green for the meadows of the countryside, yellow for the sands of the deserts, red for the routes in between the faraway places. Mischa sewed his circles together carefully, joining them where they met. The cloth he made was beautiful, but when he held it up to the light, Mischa saw it was full of open space. He could tell that his cloth wouldn't make a proper cloak, but he did not have time to start over. Although he worried that the cloak would disappoint his father, Mischa completed it in time. On the morning of the 3rd day, when the tailor had sewn the last stitch on the 3rd dress for the Archduke's wife, he called for his sons to bring their cloaks. Ivan proudly showed his cloak of many colored rectangles. "You have made a beautiful cloak, Ivan," said the tailor. "I am honored to present it to the Archduke." From now on, you will be a tailor too and work alongside your father." Happy for his brother, but still unsure of his own work, Alex showed his 2 cloaks to his father. "Why, Alex," said the tailor, "you have made 2 beautiful cloaks. How thoughtful of you to use the Archduke's own colors. He will be thrilled to wear these, I'm sure, and your quick, even stitches show that you too are ready to be a tailor. Your work alongside your father." "Now, Mischa," he said, turning to his youngest son, "let me see the cloak that you have made." "I'm afraid I did not do it right, father," said Mischa. He showed his cloak of circles and open spaces. The tailor looked at his son's cloak and for a long time said nothing. He was thinking of what his friend the bookseller had told him. Finally he spoke. "The cloak is beautiful, Mischa," said the tailor. "The colors remind me of deep oceans and winding rivers, green meadows and golden deserts, and the long routes between faraway places. But it's true that the cloak will not keep out the wind and the rain. We cannot sell it to the Archduke. Still," he added, "no harm is done. Ivan and Alex have made 3 cloaks we need." Then the tailor smiled at the youngest son. "Perhaps you were not meant to be a tailor," he said, "but you already know that, don't you?" "Yes, father," answered Mischa. "I see your dreams of traveling the world in circles of your cloak," continued the tailor. "Do you think that it's time for you to cross these oceans and rivers and meadows and deserts to follow these routes to faraway places?" "Yes, father," answered Mischa. "Then take these cloaks and dresses to the Archduke and come back and get ready for your own journey. Tomorrow your brothers and I will send you off into the world." That night the tailor sat in his little shop looking sadly at his 3rd son's beautiful but useless cloak. Though he knew Mischa had to leave home, he had hated to see him go. He knew Ivan and Alex felt just as bad as he did. "If only we could give Mischa something to protect him as he makes his own way around the world," the tailor thought. He sat by the fire a little longer and then he had an idea. The tailor ran up the stairs and quietly woke Ivan and Alex. "I know what we can give Mischa to take on his journey to the world," whispered the tailor. "We can make him a new cloak from his own cloak of circles. That way it will have all the colors of his dreams, but it will be sewn together in the practical way tailors sew things, and it will protect him from the wind and the rain." "But how, father?" asked Ivan. "The circles won't fit together." "I know, my son," said the tailor. He motioned for his sons to follow him downstairs to the shop. Then he explained how it could be done. All night long, the tailor and his 2 oldest sons worked in Mischa's cloak. Ivan snipped the circles apart and his father trimmed them into hexagons. As his father cut, Alex quickly sewed the hexagons together to make one cloth of the dreamer's colors. When the cloth was finished, the 3 tailors fashioned it into a strong, beautiful cloak. They stitched the last stitch as the sun came up on the day Mischa was to leave home. Later that morning, the tailor and his sons, Ivan and Alex, kissed and hugged Mischa goodbye at the door of their little shop. Then they stood together and watched the dreamer set off into the world, his beautiful cloak growing smaller and smaller in the distance.